Hi, this is Kim Droptiny reading Beyond the Echo Cavern by BreAnna Teschendorf. I'm on chapter 16, Annika Amused. After their visit to the Lee of Efflorescence, Cerise led Annika on a long, winding path through grass, more flowers, and past children doing interesting things. Some were making the strangely shaped chairs. Another group were standing with their pants rolled up to their knees in thick bluish-grayish mud. They scooped up the mud and molded and shaped it into bowls, cups, and odd sculptures. The pieces were left to dry on a rock in the sun. Following this, they walked along a path that led under a large archway of soft orange leaves and gave way to a white sand beach that glistened in the sunshine. Beyond the beach, the turquoise river sparkled and glistened as it rolled along slowly. There were round rocks, white and powdery like marshmallows, here and there in the river, and scattered along its banks. On the other side of the water, only thick and dense nature could be seen. Trees, more of the vines with orange leaves, and some flowers all in a tangle made it look like an impenetrable wall. The little beach, therefore, had a feeling of complete seclusion and precious privacy. Annika was thrilled. She had imagined that they would swim on the grassy bank near the cave entrance, where all the other children were playing. This spot Cerise had led her to was more beautiful than she could have imagined. "I thought we might swim here," Cerise said in her kind voice. "This is one of my most favorite places on the river. We can lie in the sand after we swim and listen to the birds sing. There are so many in the forest here. They sound like a symphony," she sighed. "This is so cool," was all Annika could answer. She was amazed. She smiled at Cerise and started for the water without another word. She couldn't stand to wait another minute to feel it washing over her skin. The water was warm like a bathtub, but not too warm. It was refreshing. As soon as she put her feet and ankles in, the little bubbles tickled them all around. As they waded out, churning the water with their feet, the colors again appeared in the froth. It was almost like swimming in the water you rinse off your watercolor paintbrush in. Annika was soon in up to her neck, and the water caressed her and swirled around her arms as she gracefully waved them back and forth to keep herself afloat. The bubbles tickled and kissed her all over. When she leaned back to float, they magically gathered around her back and neck, feeling like a pillow or an air mattress, and she found she could completely relax on the water. It was not like our water, in which we must strain our neck muscles to keep our heads from dunking under, and in which we must slightly hold our arms aloft. No, Annika found complete relaxation and peace. Near the hot white rocks, the jasmine-perfumed mist rose off the water, and it seemed to surround them as they swam to add to the peace. Annika's worries had been in the back of her thoughts all morning long. Worries about getting home to Aunt Persephone, who must be wild with fear about them, about the children in the crystal, about Charlie doing something outrageous and embarrassing. All these things seemed to disappear into the mist and float away. She felt sublime. "Let's swim down to the bottom to see who can collect the most pearls in one dive," Cerise suggested excitedly, breaking the thick seal of silence that had settled over Annika's mind. "Pearls?" asked Annika, now fully alert and extremely excited. "Yes, they are all over the bottom. Hoan put them there for us. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cerise counted excitedly before both girls dove on under. Annika had hoped that there would be no need to hold her breath in that charmed world, but she still had to. However, the pressure underwater was much less, so it felt to her like her lungs could hold more air. She stayed at the bottom of the river for what seemed like ages before her lungs ached at her in protest. She needed to surface for air, but it was hard to tear herself away from the underwater world. There were indeed pearls, pink ones, sunset orange ones, white ones, and black purple ones. She and Cerise began gathering them. There were also shells that looked like pure gold, gleaming and shining in the water, and other stones, including lumpy and turquoise ones, smooth and shimmering royal purple ones, and occasionally even some jewels. Here is Charlie's treasure, Annika thought. Yet the treasure didn't seem like something she ought to scoop up and save. There were so many pearls, jewels, and lovely stones that they were commonplace, no different than the gray rocks at the bottom of our rivers. The water was so clear that looking through it was not foggy and greenish like looking through our earthly water would be. It was almost like looking at things normally, except for the shadows of the bubbles dancing along the riverbed and the funny shadows the sun makes through water. There were plants down there as well as flowers. The plants were not yucky or slimy, but rather they were alert, dancing, and like most things in Pergamayan, they were bright. Annika stopped and looked up the river into the distance, and was amazed how far she could see under water. Annika marveled at the sun streaming in perfect beams down the surface to the floor of the river. At last, both girls rose to the surface and opened their hands for each other to count the pearls. I have 11, and you have 8, Cerise cried in thrill at winning, but then softened and added with her usual thoughtfulness, It was your first time in our river. I could tell you were distracted and looking around. It was so beautiful. I have never seen anything like it, Annika said with her eyes open very wide. What is your river called? Cerise chucked her handful of pearls into the air, and they rained down on the water, making musical little plops. It is called Tributary of Azure Lights. Lovely, Annika said, as she copied Cerise, throwing her pearls into the air, and they laughed. What are your rivers like? Cerise asked, her face open with curious interest. They are kind of green or brownish, and the water is less clear. Annika had a hard time putting it into words. Our rocks are mostly gray. I mean, sometimes they have colors like spots of orange or streaks of green. We don't have bubbles. I mean, we do have bubbles, but not everywhere in all the water. Our bubbles are different. There are pearls, but there are only a few, so they are very special in my world. People buy them and make jewelry out of them. People buy them? Cerise asked, crinkling her bright blue eyes in disbelief. Yes, they are very valuable in my world. They are treasure. You must have treasure here, too, Annika said more in a question than as a statement, half curious to find out the answer for Charlie, if she could. Oh, yes. Hoan says that we are the treasure. That is why he keeps us so safe and doesn't let the things in the darkness hurt us, even though they do try. I don't understand, Annika said, without any guile. It didn't make sense to her that children should be a treasure when there were diamonds in abundance on the riverbed. She imagined the treasure as something spectacular, beyond her wildest dreams, locked away in Hoan's castle and guarded by the fiercest warriors imaginable. He loves us so much. We are Hoan's greatest delight. So, of course, we are the most important treasure in Pergamayan. Why would a worthless stone be more valuable than I am? Your world sounds like a place where people don't understand love, Cerise concluded in a voice that was cheerful and didn't offend Annika. Annika had never thought of herself as being more valuable than diamonds, but something in her heart knew that Cerise was right. Children and people in general are far more valuable than all sorts of diamonds and rubies. Annika determined that when she returned, if she returned, that she would be someone who carried more love with her. She was sorry in her heart for not being very loving towards Charlie. Other children from school who were messy and strange flashed through her mind, and she realized that she would never have considered them to be treasures. She resolved to treat them differently if she ever got home. A little worry about that leaped back into her mind. Cerise and Annika dove again for pearls, and this time Annika had more. They climbed up onto the white rocks. The white powder got all over their wet bodies. Cerise told Annika that it was good for their skin. They dove off into the water, making gorgeous chromatic splashes. They gathered jewels and lined them up on the beach in a row, and they picked out the most beautiful jewels. Annika chose one beautiful ruby to give to Charlie and one glistening emerald to give to Gabe. Her heart thrilled at the thought of presenting the jewels to them, knowing how excited they would be. Next, the girls built a castle out of the cotton ball sand and studded it with the other colorful jewels. It was sparkling and luminous like a rainbow. "This is what Hoan's palace really looks like," Cerise told Annika happily. "Wow! I hope I will get to see it," Annika exclaimed. "Oh, you will," Cerise assured her. "You are royalty. Royalty always ends up at the palace." She smiled, laid back onto the sand, and closed her eyes. Annika did the same, and as she drifted off into a delicious afternoon nap, the sound of the birds floated in the air all around her. Their sound was indeed like a symphony, rich in different tones and melodic, very much like written music. That's the end of chapter 16. There's many adventures ahead, so I hope you keep listening. God bless you.